Hey man, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, so we're joined from Houston, Texas by my man, Jeremy Graham, the owner of Graham Credit Consulting, credit expert from multiple places. Started out in New Orleans, then went to Jackson. He'll tell us. But thank you so much for joining us. I got a room full here with us at Velma Jackson High School. We're recording this for our friends at Madison Central, Germantown, Ridgeland, and our YouTube channel. So this is our personal finance class. So thank you so much for taking some time for us today.
Hey, thank you for the invitation. I'm glad to be here. Yes, sir.
Now, now before we get into all the meat and potatoes of everything you deal with, just take us a little bit through your background because you did come to New from New Orleans, and then
Right.
to Jackson. Now you're over in Houston. So just give us a little bit of background of how you got into credit.
All right. Well, it's a journey. It's been a long story, but in 2005, I actually dropped out of high school. The 10th grade, I didn't get an opportunity like a lot of people to finish. I was expelled for something that I didn't do, but I was accused of. And so that led me to get my GED. So when Hurricane Katrina hit in 2005, I relocated to Jackson, Mississippi. Once I got to Jackson, Mississippi, um, my mom was like, "You can't just be sitting around the house." So she encouraged me to go to Hines Community College. So I actually enrolled in Hines Community College. When I got there, I failed miserably the first year because I didn't have the foundation that I needed um, from high school because I never had an opportunity to finish. So during that time that I set out, somebody took me under his wing and mentored me. They taught me about credit and finance and budgeting and things of that nature. So I went to work for about a year and decided to go back to college. When I went back to college, first semester back 3.5, second semester 3.7, Se- semester after that 3.5. So I got nominated who's who. I was on the dean's list. Uh, man, just my life just trajectory just went straight up because of the decision making, and also somebody taking me under their wing to coach me and mentor me in that area. My senior year of college, I got an opportunity to open up a restaurant in Brandon, Mississippi called Heart and Soul Diner with some friends. And it was a great opportunity, man. I was young, early 20s, and got the opportunity. And that taught me more of a lot of business structure. It gave me an idea of actually how to run a business. See, you go to college, you can learn some things about business, but it's not until you actually get into a business to where you really see this is how you run one. And
Absolutely.
surprisingly, our first year being open, we made $1 million our first year open,
Wow.
which was unheard of. We had 50 seats, 50 seats inside of that in that facility, and we rocked it. We went from being a no name company to uh, a household name in Rankin County in that area on that side of Brandon. And it was an amazing opportunity. So we did really well there. During that time, I started establishing my credit. I was early 20s. I started out I was at the mall one day and one of my mentors said, "Hey, you need to apply for a credit card." And growing up, we were always told, don't have credit cards, they're bad for you. You're gonna have a lot of debt, etc., things of that nature. And so I applied. It was a Macy's card. And I still remember the first thing that I got. I got some Polo Black cologne. We want to be clean, we want to smell good, things of that nature. So got the cologne and just started gradually paying it back over time. It was about $100. And I remember checking my credit and my score was around 700 something. And I was like, whoa, this is what you call good credit. I didn't know at the time it was a thin profile, but still I had one credit card. I was excited. Then I got me a Capital One card. And then I got me a Citibank card and a Discover card. And then I got into the credit industry. I was like, whoa, I figured out how this thing works. Um, by the time I was 25 years old, I was able to purchase my first property, got into real estate. A lady was going through a divorce, and I had 2 years of working income from working at the restaurant. And I had a credit score high enough to be able to get me, it was probably about a 710 at that time. And she was going through a divorce, and I just threw a low ball offer at her for $99,000, and she took it. And I got my first piece of real estate at the age of 25. Since then, it's just been an upward trajectory. Um, Once I got into the credit business, I realized that it opened so many doors for myself. So I wanted to introduce this to other people. I wanted to let everybody know that the banks don't see color. They don't see racism. They don't see any of that. They when they pull your data, they pull your credit score. They want to know if you can pay your bills on time. Are you financially responsible? Um, can we trust you with the money that we lend to you? That's what they're looking for. And when I realized that, I said I could start partnering and building relationships with these banks, and these could the money that I get from them could start to purchase asset producing um, properties, businesses, etc. So I was able to launch a bunch of businesses just off of the credit. The last 3 years in the credit industry for myself, and I could vouch for this. Uh, I've done pretty well for myself. I've done pretty well. I've been able to launch several businesses. We're in the process of launching another business now, more on the trucking side. And I've never really had to use my own money. I've only used the bank's money because I figured out how to leverage the bank's money to go out and buy assets to bring income into my household. So it's been an amazing journey. I would love to give people the steps and show them the strategies of what we do and how we do it. But man, it's been an awesome opportunity.
That's awesome. Now, a
So
couple of things you mentioned. No, there was a couple of things you mentioned that I did want to hit on. Is one, when you talk about the credit cards, obviously we got kids here that are 18, about to be 18. They need to start establishing
right,
some sort of credit profile. Now,
yeah,
it's just like anything else. When you get their credit card, it's not just to go ball out like you're in a rap video. It's
right,
you use it to your advantage, not just for it to be a hindrance. And
that's
also,
right,
and you also talked about the banks. Having a Cash App card is not having a bank card.
that's correct.
I use Cash App. I use Cash App for certain things. It definitely has a place, but it shouldn't be your go-to financial institution.
Right, right. Yeah, it's not a good look. So let me say this to y'all. When you I'm gonna say this, the easiest way to build credit, and I wish I had known this years ago. If you have a family member, grandmother, auntie, uncle, cousin that already has established credit with credit cards, they can add you to their credit card as an authorized user. If you have no score, zero, blank, they can add you to their credit card as an authorized user. In 30 to 35 days, you'll have an instant credit score like that. It opens the door completely for you to get your own credit card. Now, once you get that credit card, for example, let's say they give you $1,000 on that credit card. The goal is to never go over 30% of that $1,000. So that would be $300. You never want to go over that limit because it'll have a negative impact on your score at that point. Like he stated earlier, it's about discipline. You don't want to get the bank's money and just start going by chains and clothes and Jordans and Amiri shirts. And, one of the things we like to do, we like to ball out. But once you damage your credit, it can take years for you to rebuild it. And you miss out on good opportunities to buy properties. You get crazy interest rates. You can't get cars on your own. You have to look for co-signers, things of that nature. And so you can put yourself in a bad spot if you don't have the discipline to know how to properly use it. But if you use it the right way, you could easily become a multimillionaire in your 20s if you set the right foundation up. Uh, Coming from if I had the information that I know now at 18 through 25, I'll probably be up $3 or $4 million before I made 30 years old. But it took so much time to get this information and knowledge because nobody was teaching it to us. We didn't have teachers like yourself opening up the doors, talking to us about finance, or trying to educate us on credit, or bringing in speakers so people could come and talk to us about these things. But if I had to, if we could just say one or two people to help make the right decisions, you may be able to go back and change your community or set your next generation up financially because you made the right decisions right now coming out of high school. 18 years old is one of the most pivotal ages. Between 18 and 25, that's going to kind of determine where your trajectory is going to be in life. The decisions that you make between 18 and 25 really going to dictate how far you're going to be able to go in life. So I encourage everybody to be disciplined and make a lot of good decisions. A lot of times we just want to have fun between those years, but we don't realize that's the best time to build. It's the best time to establish ourselves. We getting our education, we getting our financial literacy. There's so many different positive attributes of being young because when you get older, you don't get those same opportunities. You get a bunch of bills, children start to come, things of that nature. Life get busy. It's harder to build when you get older. But the younger you are, you can lay a solid foundation and it can change your life.
Yeah, and even if you don't want to be somebody in the credit industry like you are, just being familiar with how a
Mhm.
credit score works can make a world of difference. It could be something as simple as getting a cell phone in your name, or even being
That's
able to
right.
get an apartment when you're 19, 20 years old to show payment history so you can get that mortgage later on.
That's
So I
right.
mean,
Uh,
just being familiar with
That's
how
right.
it works and just blowing it off like it's no big deal can be detrimental not only financially but also mentally because it could, like you said, it could take you years to get rid of a bad credit score.
Man, years. And a lot of people end up damaging credit early on. And they had no idea that they really needed it until it was time for them to go try to apply for a nice high-end apartment or try to go get that car in their name or try to move into a home and realize that they don't qualify because they didn't pay a Sprint bill and they got sent to collections or they maxed out a credit card and decided not to pay it back and it was just $300. You know, so those decisions that you make will dictate how the rest of your life plays out. Luckily, I had already established credit, so when it was time for me to actually purchase a home, I was able to get right into one, no issues whatsoever. I had 2 years of income. I was able to show 2 years of W-2s,
Wow.
60 days of pay. All they wanted was a 640 or higher credit score, you know. And at the time, I think I only put 3.5% down with no closing. So it was a sweet deal. I turned around, I bought that house for $100,000 and turned around and sold that house for 138,000. See what I'm saying? So made a profit and went on to move on to something else. So it was just because of good decision making, but also good mentorship. You know, I didn't learn this stuff on my own. Now, young people got YouTube, the internet. Everybody got the internet in their hands. You know, any piece of information that you're looking for now, you can just get on Google and look it up. You know, trying to understand how to structure a credit report, payment history, low inquiries, all of these things that make up a credit score. You know, it's only five really components that make up a credit score. And once you figure that out, you learn that, oh, it's over with. Once you figure that out, it's a game changer. It's a game changer.
Yeah, and again, even even if you don't want to live a certain way, some people are happy just staying in apartments, and that's fine.
Mhm.
But still, that credit score follows you. It could actually cost you a job because some jobs will run your credit score to make if you're dealing with a lot of money to make sure that you're
Right.
trustworthy. A lot of money in certain
That's
you
right.
can't be bribed.
Right. If you go into government positions, they do credit checks. If you go into VP corporate level positions, they do credit checks. And the reason why is because your credit is an indicator. It's an adult report card. That's exactly what a credit score is. It's an adult report card. It's an indicator on how well you handle financial stewardship. How well do you manage money? You know, do you pay bills on time? If they pull your credit report and see that you owe AT&T, you owe Comcast, you got two repos, you think those people want to give you the type of job that they apply? No, they're not going to give it to you. They're not looking to hire anybody that's not responsible. They want responsible people in these positions. So, like I stated earlier, a lot of we, it's we all start out on a level playing field, whether we realize it or not. When it come down to credit, everybody's score start out the same, blank. When you turn 18, you have no score. But what you do from that point on will dictate your financial future. How the banks look at you. Um, how do lenders look at you? Even you stated something earlier for the people that don't want to get into houses. Houses may not be for everybody, but if you want to get into a high end apartment, guess what they're gonna look at? Your credit score. I remember one time I went through a little hard spot in life, and I wanted to get into these nice townhouses, right? These very nice townhouses, and I had the income at the time. At the time, I probably was making $60,000 or $70,000, and I tried to get into those townhouses, and that lady was like, "Hey, we need to run your credit." And I'm thinking I'm good. I wasn't even worried about my credit at the time. They ran my credit score, and it was in the lower 500s. And the lady said, "Sir, I'm not even gonna lie to you." She said, "The only reason I'm gonna let you get into this place is because you have the income to afford it. But if it had not been for the income and the check stubs that I was able to show, I wouldn't even been able to get into an apartment." So that's how serious this stuff is. I don't ever want to be in a situation where I have to have a cosigner, or somebody else to put their name on the dotted line for myself just so I could drive a Honda or to get in a Toyota or something like that, or be able to get into an apartment complex. I want to be able to do it myself. So that's why I take it serious. And that's why I'm in a position now so I can help other people establish their credit or rebuild their credit, so they can get the things that they need to set up for the next generation.
Absolutely. Now, before I get to the students' questions, one thing I always like to talk about too is that when me and you were growing up, and I know I'm a little bit older, but we didn't have some of these same influences that young people see. They see this stuff on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, and it's all fun and cool and all. And that's, I understand teenagers are going to listen to the popular music, but that life that is being portrayed by a lot of these influencers and artists is completely false. That's not
That's true.
it's not realistic, and I think it's an easy trap to fall into, to try to live like you're seeing portrayed on social media, because it is really a facade to get money out of you.
Absolutely. And just to speak to that, so I've had the opportunity to work with several celebrity clients, and I have some clients that they got blue checks next to their name and they're on television and things of that nature. But and they get a lot of income, but because they didn't have any financial literacy, they make a lot of bad financial decisions. And so they got to come to people like myself to try to get the help that they need to get access to certain things that they still can't even get access to, although they may be famous. I've also dealt with some high end people that they are not celebrities, and you go into their homes and they're buried in debt over their head. They could barely survive. They might make $1 million, but they spend 1.2 million every year to live. So don't get caught up in a we you know don't get caught up in the influencer lifestyles. I'm gonna be honest. It's very simple to go out and rent a farm for a day, um, cop you some ice, and shoot your ad these days and try to sell a course. Or we call it lifestyle marketing. And it's very easy to do that and get caught up into that. And what happens is people get caught up in seeing we call it shiny key syndrome, where they see the shiny keys on the Lambos and the nice houses. The houses be rented, the cars be rented, the jewelry be for the friends, etc. They really don't be living like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Some of them
But
are, but a lot
famous
of
does
them
not
are.
always equal rich.
A lot of them are.
Yeah, famous does not always equal rich. That's a great point.
That's facts. Yeah. A lot of famous people don't have it like that at all financially.
Absolutely. Well, I do have
And
some
it's a
questions from
lot,
the
lot of people that we don't know about that actually got it.
oh, big time.
You
I
know,
do have some questions from the students, and these are really
yes,
good. So I'm
sir.
gonna get as many of these as I can. This first one is Kentravian Young, one of our football players here, member of our state championship track team. He's a senior. And he asked, if I filed for bankruptcy,
Awesome.
how would that affect my credit report and my credit score?
Yeah, so filing for bankruptcy, that's gonna stay on your credit for about every bit of 7 years at a minimum. Could be 7 to 10 years. So what bankruptcy does, people go out and run up a bunch of debt. They say they can't afford it. They file for bankruptcy. What it does after that, it destroys your credit completely. So when the banks pull your credit report, they're like, we can't loan or lend them any money until this bankruptcy actually comes off your credit. So there are ways to get bankruptcies removed from all people's credit reports, but that's always the last resort. We try not to encourage anybody to file for bankruptcy unless they cannot afford to pay their bills at all. It's the last resort, but it could destroy your life for every bit of 7 years and set you back, so you don't have any motion and from the banks or anything of that nature. So that's no purchasing no cars, that's not buying no houses, no property, no none of that unless you're gonna use cash. But you won't be able to touch the bank's money at all.
Yeah, that's a great point. And
Great
unfortunately,
question, by the way.
yeah, it was a great question, but then and that's something you could fall into a trap to at a very early age, making the wrong decisions. Um, Here's a
Yeah,
good one. This
definitely.
is David Ford. He's a junior, and he asked, "What would be the ideal credit score that a person would need to have?"
Ideally, I would say 680 or higher. 680 or higher. That looks like three credit cards, uh, eventually 10 or more accounts on your credit. That could be from a car note, personal loans, that could be credit cards, etc. You want to have about 10 or more accounts. You want to have 3 or 4 years of history, zero derogatory marks. That means you pay your bills and don't let nothing go to collections. 680 or higher, it'll open doors. You go in a bank, they'll lend you money at 680. You try to get you a vehicle, they don't run your credit 1,000 times to try to get you a vehicle. 680 or higher, put you in a different spot. Now, if you really want to look gold, you got to be around 750. But that don't necessarily have to be the goal. You want to have good credit. So anywhere from about a 680 to about a 750 puts you in a good range. 750 to 850 puts you in about an excellent range. So that's for people that they ain't never missed a bill payment. You know what I'm saying? They don't apply for a bunch of new credit, etc. So, great question.
Oh, and so something I forgot to mention too. I think this is important. I think when you decide you want to marry somebody, this is something you need to know about, because even if you have great credit,
Oh
you
man,
marry somebody with bad credit. You know, we could split hairs about what's right and wrong, but at the end of the day, the law
right.
is the law. You're going to be on the hook for that. With in certain instances with somebody, if you're married to somebody with a bad credit score.
These are facts. I'm gonna give y'all one example. So, I was in the process of trying to purchase a townhome several years ago. At the time, I was married, and my ex-wife at the time, her credit score was too low. I wanted to apply for the loan without her being on it, but because I was married, they had to run her credit too as well. And because her score wasn't where it needed to be, we wasn't able to get that property. That property time was would have cost me about $170,000. That property now is at, so I missed out on probably about 100K, close to $100,000 of profit and equity on a property because of bad credit, bad decisions. So
So again, I
something
mean,
back around that one ain't coming back.
yeah, and I feel you. And again, we can argue all day about whether that's right or wrong, but at the end of the day, it's what the law says, and that's something that young people really need to be aware of before you just start falling in love and getting married. That is extremely important to long-term financial wealth. Here's another one. This is
Absolutely.
another senior.
Absolutely.
This is another one of our football players in area Mayfield, and he asked, "What are the best ways to keep a good credit score as a high school senior?"
High school senior. So when you're a high school senior, I'm gonna tell y'all once again, entry level, right? You gonna have a blank score. Get somebody, family member, to add you on to a credit card as an authorized user. Okay, that's after 35 days, you're gonna have a credit score. Download the app, either Experian or Credit Karma. I prefer Experian because Experian shows a real FICO score. That's what the banks are looking at, right? But at Credit Karma, if you don't have a little money to pay, you can get it for free, but it'll give you an idea of what your score should be. It's going to be not as accurate as the FICO score, but it's going to be close. Okay. Then you apply for at least a Capital One card or Discover. Those would be our two entry level credit cards, easiest ones to get. After that, you just put small purchases on those cards, right? And set those cards up on auto pay to come directly out of your bank. So you don't never have to guess when the payment date is, etc. Because if they set up on auto pay, you'll never end up with a late payment. I got 35 credit cards. I don't get no late payments. Zero. Because every last one of those cards is set up on auto pay. You understand? So you want to start out with entry level and you just start building from there. I started with the Cap One, then I got the Discover, then I got Citibank, then I worked my way up to American Express, and once I got my platinum card, that's at the top. You know what I'm saying? So, but you gradually work your way up the ladder over time, and once you know how to play the game, it's life changing.
That's awesome. Well, I just got one more from the students. This is Gabriel G. Again, one of our football players here, senior. And he asked, after you dropped out of high school, what was the hardest obstacle you faced?
Man, so I didn't want to get into, where I come from, we had a lot of adversity. My brother and I had to fight a murder charge in 2005. After Hurricane Katrina, we moved back to Louisiana. He actually got life in prison without parole. I got off. Moved to Jackson, Mississippi, got arrested in 2006 for some of the decisions I made. Honestly, just running with the wrong people, and then as I got older, I realized that the people that I was running with, they wasn't as solid as I thought they were, because I would have probably laid my life down for dudes who wouldn't even jump a water puddle for me. You know what I'm saying? So you start to realize that ain't no loyalty in the streets, even though the love feel like it's there at the moment. But when it boiled down to it, you realize there's not a lot of loyalty in the streets. So being able to survive the streets, to get out of them, and to get into my 30s, I consider that a blessing. You know what I'm saying? I consider that as a blessing. So I feel like I beat the statistics. I come from a broken home, single mom, criminal record. I got all that on my jacket. And I turned out all right. You know what I'm saying? So you dig? It's really been a blessing that I've been able to get to this position that I'm in today, and life is amazing.
That's awesome. Well, we're almost out of time, and we
So
thank you so much. That was some stuff I didn't even know, so that was great information for everybody. But before we go, you talked a little bit about your background and some of the things you've overcome, and it is amazing. But it also proved that it can happen.
it can.
And like you said, the credit score is the ultimate equalizer. The credit score is not pulling your race, it's not pulling your gender,
Mhm.
it's not pulling who your parents are. You really can start making decisions now to set yourself up to at least
That's
be
facts.
financially sound. Everybody's not into the investment game, everybody's not into the property flipping game, and that I'm not either, and that's fine. But at least
Right.
being familiar with how this stuff works can save yourself and your family literally thousands of dollars. So
Man,
what can these kids do now to really stay on top of that as they move into that next phase of life?
I would advise all of them to get on their phones, get on YouTube, and start looking at credit videos. Educate yourself so you'll have an understanding of it. And I want y'all to know that credit is a game. It can be destroyed and it can be rebuilt. But I want y'all to know that everything revolves around credit. These big commercial buildings that y'all drive past, these gas stations and these hotels, they're not buying those cash. They're getting that money from the bank. So when you
Yeah.
get into real estate, or if you want to get into flipping watches, or uh, hot shot trucking, 18 wheelers, I want y'all to know that it's going to always be attached to the credit. You understand? And once you realize that you can play that game, it's going to change your life forever. It's going to change the trajectory of your life. So make good decisions now. You can start at 18. You can start at 18. Hop on a card as an authorized user. And if y'all need help with the process, I'll be happy to help with the process. You know, Greg knows how to reach me. Um, I can help establish credit coming out the gate for anybody and give you the tools that you need to set yourself up for success. And I'll be happy to help with that anytime.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. All the way from Houston, Texas, Jeremy Graham with Graham Credit Consulting out there. Thank you so much. I really appreciate taking time for us today.
Hey, Greg, thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure. Y'all be blessed. Y'all have a great day.
I talk to you soon, buddy.